A 6-year-old boy named Jasper walks into a music audition, not for fame, but to save his unconscious mother. What he doesn't know is that the judge waiting behind the panel is the man who unknowingly left them years ago, his father. One forgotten song, one stunning performance, and a secret love story come crashing back to life. This is a tale of broken dreams, lost love, and the power of forgiveness that will leave you breathless. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country below, and don't forget to subscribe for more heart-touching stories like this one. Inside a dim hospital room, where the only sounds were the faint beeping of machines and the soft hiss of oxygen, a small boy sat curled on the edge of a too-big bed. Jasper Moore, 6 years old, but already carrying the weight of a world too heavy for his little shoulders, gripped his mother's cold hand as if she'd slip away forever if he let go. Her name was Mira Bennett. Once a vibrant soul who sang lullabies in the kitchen while flipping pancakes, she now lay unresponsive, pale and still, since the accident 2 weeks ago. Jasper's lower lip trembled as he whispered, "Please wake up, Mom. I'll be good. I'll eat all my broccoli, I promise." His voice cracked, and for a moment, he tried to be brave, like the superheroes he watched in cartoons, but the silence in the room defeated him. Tears welled up and rolled down his cheeks. He hated crying, but he didn't know what else to do. A gentle knock at the door broke the quiet. He turned and saw Miss Lillian, their kind elderly landlady, entering with a paper bag in her hand. "Jasper, sweetheart," she said softly. "You've been here all day again. Have you eaten anything?" He shook his head without looking at her. "Well, I brought you some warm bread and apple slices," she offered, walking to him slowly. "I don't want to leave her," he murmured. "What if she wakes up and I'm not here?" Miss Lillian's heart ached. She knelt beside him and placed a hand on his back. "She'd understand, dear. You're just a little boy." Jasper sat up straighter. "I'm not just a boy. I'm her son. I have to help her now." His tone was stubborn and fierce in the way only a determined child could be. Miss Lillian hesitated, then asked gently, "What will you and your mom do now? Has anyone come to help? Family?" Jasper lowered his eyes. "We don't have anyone, just me and Mom." She bit her lip. "I'm so sorry, Jasper. I wish I could do more." He looked up suddenly, his eyes fierce despite the tears. "Do you know where I can make money? A lot? Fast?" She blinked in surprise. "Make money? Honey, you're too young to be thinking about that." "I don't care. I'll do anything. I'll clean things, or carry boxes, or sing." That last word caught her attention. "Sing?" she asked. "Yeah, I sing a lot. Mom taught me." A small smile cracked through his sadness. Suddenly, Miss Lillian snapped her fingers. "There's a singing contest at Silvercord Studios downtown. I saw a flyer. They're looking for young singers. The prize money is huge, and even those who don't win get something." Jasper's eyes lit up. "Really?" "Really," she said, standing. "And I've heard you sing, Jasper. You've got a voice that makes people stop and listen." He looked back at his mother. Her chest rose and fell in slow, machine-aided rhythm. He leaned close and whispered, "I'm going to sing for you, Mom. I'll find a way." Then he turned to Miss Lillian. "Where's the studio?" "But are you sure?" He nodded firmly. "She needs me." The next morning, Jasper stood in front of a building taller than anything he'd ever seen. Silvercord Studios gleamed under the sun like a glass tower from a movie. Kids in fancy clothes with parents holding expensive cameras bustled around. Jasper clutched his backpack strapped tighter. His shoes were scuffed, his sweater too big, but his heart was strong. He walked up to the registration table and said, "Excuse me, ma'am, I want to join the contest." The lady behind the desk looked down at him, blinking. "Are you alone?" "Yes, ma'am. My mom's in the hospital." The woman softened. "Name Jasper Bennett Moore." Her hand froze midair. Something flickered in her expression, but she quickly masked it. "All right, Jasper," she said. "Let's get you signed in." Jasper waited for hours, tucked into a line that stretched along the hallway like a snake winding through a castle. All around him, children older and taller buzzed with excitement. Some practiced scales, some filmed TikToks with ring lights, and others whispered nervously with their parents. Jasper had no one to whisper with. He clutched his audition number in one hand and the note he wrote for his mom in the other. "I'll come back with a miracle," it read, written in shaky crayon. When his number was called, his legs felt like jelly. But he stood up anyway, walked into the audition room with wide eyes and trembling breath. The room was vast, with bright spotlights and 4 people seated behind a long panel. 3 of them were judges, stylish and well-dressed, tapping pens or scribbling notes. But the 4th, he made Jasper stop in his tracks. "Whoa," he whispered, barely audible. That was Cameron Blake. The Cameron Blake. The man his mom used to hum along to on the old radio. Jasper remembered her calling him the boy with fire in his voice. She'd never missed a show where he performed, not even when their TV barely worked. Cameron had produced the biggest pop albums in the country and now sat just 10 feet away from Jasper, flipping through paperwork. "Jasper Moore?" one of the judges called. Cameron looked up then, eyes locking onto the tiny boy standing in the doorway. "Yes, sir," Jasper said, stepping forward. Cameron blinked and looked back at the form. "That's a strong name," he said thoughtfully. "Where'd you learn to sing, Jasper?" "My mom," Jasper replied proudly. "She's a songwriter. Well, she was, before the accident." The room went quiet for a beat. Cameron leaned forward slightly. "What song will you sing?" "It's called Light of My Heart. She wrote it a long time ago," Jasper said. "It's special." Cameron's pen slipped from his fingers. He swallowed hard. That name, that title, it hit him like a punch to the chest. It was impossible, utterly impossible. But that was the same name of a song Mira Bennett had written for him in secret one rainy night so many years ago. She had never published it, never played it for anyone but him. Jasper stepped onto the center rug, closed his eyes, and began. His voice was soft, unsure at first, but as the melody climbed, so did his courage. The room grew still, as if even the air dared not move. Cameron didn't breathe. The lyrics wrapped around his mind like vines. "In every breath I take, in every dream I make, you're the light of my heart." The phrasing, the melody, the little melodic run at the end of the chorus, it was exactly Mira's. He saw flashes in his mind. Mira, barefoot on the balcony, guitar in hand, laughing as thunder rolled outside. Mira swaying as she sang that very song just before he left for Los Angeles. "You're the light of my heart." No one else could have taught Jasper that. No one else could have even known. When the last note fell, the silence was thick with wonder. One of the judges whispered, "Incredible." Another nodded, clearly moved. But Cameron still hadn't said a word. He just stared. Finally, he stood up slowly. "Jasper, that song, where did you hear it?" "My mom sang it to me before bed," Jasper replied. "She said it was hers. She wrote it for someone she loved." Cameron's throat tightened. "What's your mom's name?" "Mira. Mira Bennett." And just like that, Cameron felt the floor vanish beneath him. He staggered back a step and sank into his chair, breathless. Mira who disappeared. Mira he never stopped thinking about. Mira, who'd apparently had a son. His son. He looked at Jasper again, the boy's eyes, his chin, the shape of his hands, his voice. It was all there. "I need a moment," Cameron muttered, standing up and stepping outside, his hands shaking uncontrollably. Behind him, Jasper watched confused, as the man he admired most looked like he'd just seen a ghost. The next few days were a whirlwind. Jasper had passed the first round with flying colors, his name posted at the very top of the callback board, circled in red marker. Staff members began whispering about the little boy with the voice, and everywhere he walked in the studio, heads turned. But not all the attention was kind. He first noticed it during rehearsal. Older kids glanced at him, then leaned in to whisper behind cupped hands. Some laughed under their breath. Jasper tried not to care. He was used to being invisible, but now that people saw him, it felt like they wanted him to disappear again. On Thursday, it got worse. He was waiting outside the practice room, sitting quietly on a bench with his lyrics notebook, when 3 older boys approached. One of them, tall, sharp-eyed, and wearing a jacket far too expensive for his age, stood with arms crossed. "Hey, you're the new kid, right?" he asked, voice cool but laced with arrogance. Jasper nodded. "Yeah. You're getting special treatment," the second boy chimed in. "We saw Mr. Blake talking to you. That never happens. He doesn't even talk to finalists unless they're already famous." I don't know what you mean," Jasper replied, shrinking slightly. "Sure you don't," the third boy sneered. "What makes you so special, huh? Your clothes are from a thrift store. Your shoes have holes. You don't belong here." Jasper's cheeks burned. He looked down at his sweater, faded, patched on one sleeve, and clenched his notebook tighter. "There's nothing wrong with being poor," he said softly but firmly. "Maybe," the tall boy replied, stepping closer. But poor kids don't last long in places like this. You're a charity case. I'm here because I worked for it. I sing for my mom, not for fame, Jasper shot back. His voice was shaky, but his words were solid. The boys didn't like that. The tallest one shoved him. Jasper stumbled, his back hitting the wall behind him. Before he could react, a sharp voice sliced through the hallway. Enough. Everyone turned. Cameron Blake was standing just a few feet away, eyes narrowed, jaw clenched. He stepped forward, placed a steady hand on Jasper's shoulder, and turned to the boys. Is there a reason you're harassing another contestant? His voice was cold, commanding. The three boys froze. We didn't mean anything, one mumbled. Cameron's eyes hardened. This is a competition, not a playground for bullies. If I see this behavior again, you're out. Understood? They nodded quickly, murmuring apologies before retreating down the hallway. Jasper stood frozen, still trying to catch his breath. Cameron knelt down beside him. You okay? Jasper nodded. I didn't think they'd hate me just for singing. They don't hate you. They're scared, Cameron said gently. Because your voice has something theirs don't, Hart. Jasper blinked. Thanks, Mr. Blake. There was a pause, long and quiet. Cameron hesitated, then softly he said, You don't have to call me Mr. Blake, you know. Jasper looked up, confused. Why? Cameron swallowed hard. Because I think I'm your dad, Jasper. Jasper's breath caught. What? I didn't know, Cameron said quickly. Your mom never told me. I only realized when I heard you sing that song, our song. Jasper took a step back. You're my dad? But where were you? Cameron's heart broke at the look on the boy's face. Far away, but not by choice, and not anymore. I'm here now, for you and your mom. Jasper didn't respond. He just stared, the wheels in his young mind turning. After a beat, he turned away. I need to practice, he said quietly, walking toward the rehearsal room. Cameron stood there alone, hands shaking, unsure if he had just found his son, only to lose him again. The hallway outside Mira's hospital room was quiet except for the soft hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Cameron stood frozen in front of the glass, staring at the woman inside. Mira looked so different, so still. Her once lively face, always full of mischief and quiet strength, was pale and motionless under the sterile white sheets. Tubes and monitors surrounded her like a fragile web, keeping her tethered to life. His fingers trembled as he reached for the door handle, pausing for a long breath before stepping inside. He approached slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. When he finally reached her bedside, he pulled up a chair and sat down without a word. For a few seconds, he couldn't even bring himself to touch her hand. Mira, he whispered. Just saying her name out loud shattered something in him. What happened to you? His voice cracked, barely audible. Memories came rushing back, her laughter echoing in his apartment as she danced barefoot, the soft scent of her hair when she leaned against his shoulder, the warmth of her voice when she sang to him in the early days. He had left all that behind in pursuit of a dream, promising he would come back. But he never did. Not in time. He looked at her hand lying limp against the sheet, then reached out and wrapped his fingers around hers. Cold, too cold. I didn't know, he whispered. If I had known you were pregnant, if I had known about Jasper. He couldn't finish the sentence. He just bowed his head and let the tears fall silently. Outside the room, Jasper waited in the corridor, sitting with his knees pulled to his chest, watching through the narrow window. He'd never seen a grown man cry like that. For a long time, he wasn't sure what to think. Cameron said he was his dad, but how could that be true? His mom had never mentioned him. Not once. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting long shadows across the hallway, Mira stirred. It was slight, a twitch of a finger, the flutter of her eyelashes, but it was enough to send the nurses into motion. They called out her name, adjusted her machines, and carefully spoke to her as her consciousness slowly returned. Jasper ran in the moment he heard them say her name. Mom, he cried, running to her side. Her eyes fluttered open, and she squinted against the harsh light. Jasper? She murmured, voice weak and dry. I'm here, Mom. I'm here, he whispered, clutching her hand tightly. Then a second voice spoke, one softer, older, more hesitant. Mira? Her eyes shifted slowly. When they landed on Cameron, they widened. Cameron, she whispered, stunned. You came back? She blinked, tears forming immediately. He stood at the foot of the bed, unsure if he should move closer. I heard our song, he said quietly. Jasper sang it. She looked between the two of them, her son, her past, her present, all converging in a single breath. "Why now?" she asked, not angry, just tired. "I didn't know," Cameron said again. "I thought you were gone, Mira. I never knew we had a child. I was so caught up in my career, chasing some version of success that I never looked back." He stepped closer. "But then I heard his voice, and I knew he was ours." Mira closed her eyes, a single tear slipping down her cheek. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want to stop you. You had so much ahead of you. I didn't want to be the reason you stayed behind. You were never the thing holding me back, Mira. You were everything that gave me the strength to go. And losing both of you was the price I never should have paid." Silence fell between them. Then, gently, Mira reached out a trembling hand. Cameron took it in his own. "We're here now," she whispered. "Don't waste it." Jasper stood beside them, unsure what this meant for any of them, but hoping, desperately, that this was the beginning of something whole. The lights of the stage were blinding, but Jasper didn't flinch. He stood alone at center stage, small in stature but steady, holding the microphone with both hands like it was the only thing anchoring him. The grand finale of the competition had finally arrived, and the room buzzed with cameras, whispers, and anticipation. He took a deep breath, stealing one last glance at the wings where Mira and Cameron stood, watching with hearts pounding. He had almost dropped out that morning. Stage fright hit him like a storm. He had woken up shaking, curled beside his mom in the hospital room, tears threatening to spill before breakfast. "What if I mess up?" he had whispered into the crook of Mira's arm. "What if I forget the words?" She had stroked his hair and whispered back, "Even if you forget the words, you'll still remember the feeling, and that's what people listen to most." Cameron had walked in then, holding a breakfast tray and overhearing the moment. He knelt beside the bed and said, "Your voice brought me back to you. Just sing from your heart again. That's all anyone needs." And so here he was, standing before hundreds. The music cue began. But it wasn't a track from the studio or a pop hit. It was new, written just days earlier by Mira and Cameron together. A song born from healing, from truth, from love. Jasper opened his mouth and began to sing. His voice carried through the theater, clear and heartfelt, weaving lyrics about lost time and found hope. "In every shadow we once stood, love was hiding like it should. Now the light has found its way, and I'm not afraid to say I'm home." The audience sat breathless. Judges leaned forward, visibly moved, and backstage, Mira gripped Cameron's hand. When the last note faded, the entire hall erupted in applause. Some stood, some wept. Even the judges looked stunned. Jasper didn't bow. He simply smiled, turned, and ran straight off stage, straight into the arms of his parents. Mira hugged him tightly, her cheeks damp. "You were incredible, sweetheart." Cameron bent down and cupped Jasper's face, tears in his eyes. "You just reminded the world what real music sounds like." Later that evening, the winners were announced. Jasper was called first. Not just as a finalist, but the grand prize winner. The golden trophy glimmered as he stood on the podium, stunned, holding it up with trembling hands. Reporters swarmed. Flashbulbs exploded. His story, once a quiet tragedy, was now the talk of the nation. But none of that compared to what came next. Back at the house, everything was quiet again. Jasper had taken off his shoes and curled up on the couch, trophy on the table, his head resting on Mira's lap. Cameron entered the room holding a small box and a nervous smile. "What's that?" Mira asked, raising an eyebrow. "I was going to wait, but tonight feels right." He opened the box and revealed a simple, elegant ring. Mira gasped softly. Jasper sat up straight. Cameron went down on one knee. "Mira," he said, voice thick, "years ago I left chasing a dream, and somehow you still believed in me. You raised the most amazing boy on your own. You loved when I forgot how. You forgave when I didn't deserve it. Let me spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Will you marry me?" Mira stared, speechless. Tears welled in her eyes again, but this time they weren't from sadness. She nodded, choked up. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Jasper leapt onto the couch, throwing his arms around both of them. Best day ever. The three of them stayed like that, wrapped in a messy, perfect embrace. Outside, the world continued to spin. But inside that house, in that moment, they weren't just a broken family trying to find each other anymore. They were whole. And from that night on, every song they sang carried the same note. the one that sounded like love coming home. Every story leaves behind more than just memories. It leaves lessons that stay with us long after the final word is spoken. Jasper's journey wasn't just about singing or winning a competition. It was about the quiet strength of love, the resilience of a child's heart, and the way fate brings people back together when the time is right. From Mira, we learn that true love sometimes means letting go so someone else can fly, even if it breaks your heart. From Cameron, we're reminded that chasing dreams without the people you love beside you can leave even the brightest spotlight feeling cold. And from Jasper, we discover that even the smallest voices can carry the loudest truth. This story teaches us that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's the bridge between what hurt us and what can heal us. That no matter how far apart life may pull us, love always finds a way back. And that sometimes the family we thought we lost is just waiting to be found again. So wherever you are, whatever you're going through, don't give up on second chances. Don't stop believing in the power of love or the strength of a promise made in a lullaby. We hope this story moved you the way it moved us. Now tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. And if you don't want to miss the next beautiful story, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for listening, and may love always find its way back to you.